Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. This is Joe Marion, from President of Cloud Communications Alliance. Really excited today for this webinar we're about to have. But before I get into that, a very cheap commercial, if you will, commercial break. But we have the Cloud Communications Financial Summit coming up October 7th and 8th in Washington, D.C. The Cavell Group is doing its event on October 7th. We're having an opening dinner on the night of October 7th, and then the Cloud Communications Financial Summit on October 8th. Really encourage you to join it. If you go to cloudcommunications.com, you can register. Going to be a really exciting thing. We have a lot of really cool stuff going on. You can see it all on the website. But really, I'm today really excited about having Zoom with us today. We're going to be, you all think of Zoom as maybe a communications company. What I learned very last week that Zoom is really an AI company. They have some really cool AI stuff going on that they've integrated with communications. So with that, I'm going to give you the head of Zoom Phone Worldwide, Jamie Hill, and he'll take it away and explain the new Zoom program. Jamie, you got it.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Welcome, everybody. Great to see everybody again, and look forward to seeing you here just in a couple of weeks in Washington, D.C. So Joe, you can see my screen okay? Everything's
Yes,
shared?
sir.
Awesome.
Yes.
So what I want to talk to you guys about today is the service provider program. I introduced this a bit when we were in June together in Europe, in Belgium. But what I wanted to do is give everyone a quick overview of where we've come since then, what a little more details, what it looks like, and also go into some of the bit of the solution and how it makes sense as potentially a part of your service offering. So I'll just start with a little market overview, and this is similar to what I talked about when we were in Belgium. But we have, as you all know, we have I don't know what's going on here. Stop.
I do see your screen, Jamie.
Sorry about that. My phone just decided to go nuts. So as opposed to having background music, I don't even think anybody wants background music on the webinar. But back to the presentation. So we all know that we've gone through a number of market transitions over the last 20 years or so from a phone system perspective. It started with TDM. It rapidly moved in the early 2000s to voice over IP. And you can kind of see the evolution of that over time. And then midway through that process, it started to transition into cloud as voice over IP enabled this move to cloud and allowed phone systems and telephony to be essentially leveraged in someone else's data center in the cloud. So today, we're about midway through some of that transition. We've got a long way to go with respect to the amount of on-prem solutions that are migrating and moving to the cloud. And so we're kind of in the middle of both a TDM migration to the cloud directly and even on-prem IP migration to the cloud as well. So you kind of see this market transition that has evolved over the last couple of years, and it's kind of come to an inflection point at this point where service providers in particular are now starting to take advantage of the capabilities of the cloud and the scalability and really the innovation that can come out of the cloud at this point. So just to look at some statistics behind that from Omdia, the forecasted demand ultimately for on-prem SIP calling over the next 5 years or so is expected to decline in double digits for both IP PBX and contact center. Whereas at the same time, that same forecasted demand over the same period of time for cloud, for UCaaS, CCaaS, is increasing over that period of time. So the compound annual growth is clearly shifting from IP PBX and contact center premise-based to cloud-based solutions. The challenge, however, that we see within the market and for most of your organizations is ultimately the status quo of your service offerings versus evolving into a cloud-based world with a lot of new technology with AI and a lot of innovation that is a part of that. So it's really a balancing act at this point in time, because there are a lot of highly profitable legacy services that are out there. All of the hardware, all of the prem solutions are all fully depreciated. They're all paid off. And it's ultimately just monetizing that existing hardware as it continues to be used, which gives a high profit margin for those solutions. But at the same time, you've got higher growth cloud solutions to balance with that. So how do you provide your customers a balance of both? How do you migrate a legacy type of a solution and give your customers AI and additional voice capabilities that they may be asking for without losing those customers to competitors, without losing those customers to other solutions in the cloud, and being able to essentially proactively migrate your base to some of those highly capable cloud solutions at the same time. So this is a balancing act. It is very obvious and very clear that it's creating offerings for your customers that can allow them the choice to stay on their existing solution, to not disrupt their existing business, or to ramp up their innovation and ramp up their productivity by moving to some of these new AI solutions. And I'll talk about some of that towards the end of this presentation. So what is the service provider program? Where are we going? Why are we creating this new program? Ultimately, a partner program, the partner programs that we've had in the past are primarily focused on referral and resale types of business. The difference now in the service provider program is we're focusing on giving you all the ability to do true service creation with the capabilities that we have in the Zoom platform. So being able to take, for example, Zoom Phone as an IP PBX in the cloud, pure UCaaS solution, 100% multi-tenant cloud-based solution, and embed that in your own offerings. So tie that to your own PSTN, tie that to your own DIDs and your calling plans, but use the capabilities and the innovations of Zoom Phone in the cloud tied to all of your existing differentiated services. And so that allows each of you to create your own offerings and leverage something that is already built, something that can already scale, and something that most of your customers already know and love to some degree, and that is Zoom, to tie that to your overall offering and create something that can be a new offering to your customers that allows them the choice and allows them the migration on your platform from, say, one of those legacy on-prem soft switches or legacy on-prem CO-based solutions. So even above and beyond that, this also allows you the flexibility of leveraging the entire platform. So not only just stopping at Zoom Phone only and looking at carrier PSTN and DIDs tied to Zoom Phone only, but also layering upon that, say, the AI capabilities within Zoom Workplace, meetings offerings and meetings options to tie to that, and even some of the rooms and the video and some of the other things that a lot of our customers in the business world are asking for. That come along as part of Zoom Workplace overall, as part of the overall package. But that allows you as a service provider to take not only Zoom Phone and tie that to your PSTN, but then also provide a good, better, best option for those customers to say, if you also need rooms capability, if you also need meetings capability or chat, or even in some cases for those the small businesses, email and calendaring without necessarily having to go to Microsoft, to tie into all that as a complete workplace solution, you can provide that as, say, a better option as part of your portfolio. But then as a best option, you can even add on pieces of contact center or a certain number of contact center. And one of the things that we're seeing in the cloud and the UCaaS and the CCaaS markets is traditionally contact center has been a very heavy lift to deploy a contact center. Traditionally it was a large number of servers. It was a large amount of equipment. It was a huge investment and a huge time commitment in order to install and maintain a full-blown multi or omni-channel contact center. But when you move to the cloud and when you move to CCaaS, that is changing. And what the way that is changing, the way we're seeing this is we're actually starting to see small businesses, medium businesses, and even large businesses start to deploy CCaaS as what I call micro contact centers. So not necessarily rolling out an entire contact center solution for their entire workforce, but to maybe add a handful of licenses, 1 in 10 maybe, or maybe even add a contact center solution in the cloud to have an advanced IVR, an AI-enabled IVR that front ends their phone system and front ends their UCaaS environment to do better and more efficient call routing. So this also allows you to take that into consideration and create those service offerings that have options for maybe a micro contact center on top as a best type of a solution. And then not only are you able to provide your existing phone-only customers with a AI-enabled modernized cloud solution, but then give those same customers options for upsell and options for advanced capabilities with workplace and contact center on top. So there's upsell opportunities that could come along with that for your business. The overall solution, I'll dive in a little bit of, into technical for those of you that are wondering how this works. So Zoom Phone is a multi-tenanted platform. Each one of your customers show up and look as if they have their own phone system. They manage it, they own it, they have all of their users and all of their information stored directly in that. It is not shared. It is completely multi-tenanted and it looks as if it's their own on-prem solution. All of the devices, all of the software, whether it's a mobile client, whether it is a desktop or a tablet client, or even a hard phone, ATA, or any of the hardware devices, all register into that Zoom Phone tenant for that customer. And so that's important to understand because we support a plethora of manufacturers for hardware. And in fact, I believe all of the hardware vendors that are supported on, say, the BroadSoft Metaswitch type of platforms, all are also supported as long as they're up to date on their hardware and software, supported on Zoom Phone. So that means if you were to migrate something off of a BroadSoft or Metaswitch over to a Zoom Phone, a single user, for example, they wouldn't necessarily have to change a device. So they could leave the phone on their desk. Because they're using your PSTN and your DIDs, they would not be porting numbers, they would not be moving numbers. So there's very little customer impact to moving an on-prem solution to a cloud when you look at a solution like this. The way that we accomplish this is we have something called SIP Cloud Peering and Provider Exchange, and that is essentially APIs available for you to inject numbers to our system and be able to assign those numbers to the devices. But also have that SIP cloud peering between your CO, your data center, and our data center that allows the calls to be sent back and forth between the Zoom Phone tenant and the devices that are registered there and the PSTN that you're providing in your data center. So that's kind of how it works. That's a little bit of a technical aside to understand, how this is accomplished. And we have done this. We've probably got 80+ providers already cloud peered with us out throughout the world. So this is something that is in place today and is highly operational at this point, and has been for a couple of years. The way that we're going to market and allowing you to now OEM or wholesale or embed the Zoom Phone licenses and the Zoom Phone capability into your service offering is something we call volume licensing agreement. Traditionally, if you look at the on-prem platforms, you'd usually be required to purchase hardware, to purchase all the licenses up front. It creates what's called a fixed cost of goods scenario, where you have a large fixed upfront cost, like building a building or deploying a bunch of hardware, which is a capital expense. And then you have to monetize that over time. So your cost of goods starts out really, really high for customer number one and moves down over time to customer one, 10,000 or so. So the more customers you have on the solution, the higher the profit margin, and that's it essentially provides a variable profit margin scenario. So if you don't sell the solution, then it's a very, very high cost per license. But if you sold a ton of them, it's a very low cost solution. And that's where that balancing comes into play between, highly profitable legacy solutions that have been sold a ton of licenses and new UCaaS or CCaaS solutions that have more of a fixed cost. So the way we've done this and the way we've implemented this on volume licensing agreement is essentially to take Zoom Phone Pro, which we call bring your own carrier. We call BYOC. As a cloud PBX. And there's no hardware required. So there's nothing to build out within the data center. There's nothing to turn on. And you're actually just going to pass through a order from a customer by customer basis to us, and we will provision the tenant for those customers automatically. The pricing for the licensing and the pricing for the solution, usually the reason in the traditional sense you would buy bulk licenses, buy a large number of licenses up front, is because you get a low per user cost when you do that. So there's economies of scale in buying a large number of licenses up front. But what we're saying is we're basically saying you don't have to do that anymore. This is a cloud solution. We would like to, truly partner with each one of you. And we're just asking for a commitment. We'll say over a 2 or 3 year period, commit to a certain volume of licenses, and we'll provide you the same individual per user per month cost as if you were to buy those all up front. So that's the commitment piece. What this enables is your fixed price. You have a fixed price, and that fixed price as a cost of goods does not change for customer number 1 to customer number 10,000. So that's a true variable cost of goods scenario, and allows a fixed profit margin associated with what your solution, your service offering is. And that makes it ultimately an operational expense. So the higher the quantity of the license commitment, ultimately the lower the price. But that's all it is at this point, is a commitment. So you're not actually paying anything up front, not for the hardware, not for the licenses. You sign up for a commitment. We partner, we help you with the service creation. And then we go to market together to sell your new solution within the market. And so every single customer gets processed on a customer by customer basis. We bill you, you bill the customer as you acquire or migrate those customers one by one. So it's really, really elegant in how this is executed. And the way that we're going about this is ultimately being able to do this with a lot of API and partner self-service capabilities that we rolled out in May. And so that's kind of the catalyst for all of this, and why we released this in June is because in May we got all the systems capabilities available for you to be able to truly execute and tie into your OSS BSS systems and build that out. So let me dive a little bit into the service provider program. This is essentially operationalizing or making this entire capability as a route to market or a partner program within Zoom. So the service provider program ultimately differentiates you as a service provider from all other reseller referral type partners. And that gives you a number of different benefits. And it's also a number of different benefits as a result of your continued investment and us working together for creating a joint service offering. So first and foremost, as most of you know, service provider definition is the #1 criteria. If you are a service or registered carrier in your country, you're obviously a service provider, and so that would allow you to be a part of the service provider program. We do have another option under the service provider program for all of you hosted providers out there, where you are taking a third-party PSTN, you're taking a third-party, typically an on-prem solution like an Avaya, Mitel, a Cisco HCS, or some of the other on-prem solutions that are out there, and selling those as packages to customers, as bundles to customers. So you're operating as a service provider, even though you're not technically a registered carrier. So under the SP program, we do have options for that to allow you to go and create some of those service offerings for those types of scenarios. But secondly, and just as important, just like I mentioned in the technical piece, you've got to be able to execute and tie the two systems together. So we have to do cloud peering. And you have to provide your PSTN in some way, because we are, as part of this program, we are not providing PSTN. We want you to do what you do best, and that is provide the calling services, the minutes, the DIDs, and all the telephone services that you've been doing for years. So cloud peering is required so that you can execute and tie those two systems together and assign the numbers to the Zoom Phone users. The volume license agreement that I mentioned before is essentially enabling you that fixed price, because without a fixed price, it makes no sense to put together a service offering or an OEM agreement. And then lastly, there's a service partner certification. So we will have some technical certifications available now that allows you to enables your team to know how to support, how to build, how to implement Zoom Phone, so that you can provide tier 1 support. You can truly own your customers from beginning to end. And it also gives you access to our tier 2 support as well, so that if you need escalations, we can step in and help you and help your teams to make sure your customers are taken care of. Last but not least, here in about a month, we'll be launching what we call Zoom Up 3.0, and that is our new partner programs across the board. And we'll show you some additional benefits that we're rolling into the service provider program at that point in time. And that'll probably be right around the, if I were to guess, right around the December December timeframe when we start to announce some of that. So here is a quick, just a quick view into how we're doing some of this. And again, this is another technical aside for all of you that are wondering how this works. But we have what we call a Commerce API available now. And that allows you to essentially, through an API or through tying into your OSS BSS system, to do quoting, to do ordering, to do provisioning, to do everything where you're standing up a new customer all through API. So you're not having to go into our portal necessarily. You're not have to engage any of the account teams to do manual quotes. All of this can be done directly from your interface. And so that allows you to continue to operate and sell in your motion. And then the API would pass through the orders as you get orders from customers to us to enable that velocity of business that I hear that most of you need. So overall, let me summarize some of the benefits of the SP program. So I mentioned the volume pricing incentives and preferential pricing across the platform. The enablement to tier 1. So we enable you to make sure you have that certification. And that gives you also direct access to our tier 2 support. And then it also, as a part of the service provider program, you do have that full access to our entire resale portfolio. So not only Zoom Phone as part of the volume pricing incentives, but you also have access to all the other capabilities where you can build in those good, better, best types of solutions, standardize on certain offerings, and get those to market fairly quickly. So those are a quick overview or a quick summary of what those benefits are. So now I want to transition into just some fun stuff. What I hear a lot is, I'll go over the program, but then the first question I always get at the end of the program is, why would we go Zoom, and why would my customer use Zoom Phone, and what's the differentiators, and how is it different than Microsoft, or how is it different than BroadSoft or Metaswitch or some of the other platforms that are out there? And that's what I wanted to share in this, the last half of this webinar, is just to go over some of those capabilities. And so try to make this a little bit fun. I'm going to go over just, feature and capabilities, because, I find that, that's kind of interesting to see where phone systems have been going. The theme that I like to use around this is along the lines of, we're making what is old new again. And you'll see going through this is kind of funny, but when you look at it from that lens, phone systems have been around for hundreds of years. It's one of the oldest technologies we have. And if you talk to any telecom, tried and true telecom engineer, the mantra is that dial tone is a God-given right. And it has been around so long that it is considered a God-given right. You have to have dial tone. So it's become that prevalent within our community and within our society. So how are we making that new again? And that's what I wanted to talk about, is just what are all the neat, cool things that we can do with phone systems that actually make it kind of like a now newly required capability. So the first and most simple, I would say, is in this era of AI, we hear a lot about call summaries and summarization and reading things for us and giving us tasks. So what's even amazing is, as simple as it sounds, one of the most productive things that you can do in a phone system is provide call summaries and next steps for every single call that you get within your system. So I tossed my phone over there somewhere because it was making noise earlier, but if I had it, I would show you. But if every single call that I make, I can now, most of the time when we're on audio only calls as opposed to video or in person, we're usually mobile. We're usually moving. We're in the car, or we're going to the airport, or walking down the street or something, and we're making calls. We don't usually have notes, and we don't usually have a pad, or we don't usually have anything to write down when we're mobile like that. And we certainly can't do that while we're driving. So what's so compelling about all of this is you can make all of those calls you need while mobile, while moving, and then AI companion will summarize and give you those next steps without you having to write anything down. This is not recording the call, by the way. This is actually just listening to the call, summarizing it live, and I'll go into that in a second. And it's not keeping an actual recording of the individual call, which means as I can do that, I can also break out and ask AI companion during the call to give me some information about what we've talked about on that call. So if it's a long conversation, or more commonly is if it's a multi-party conversation on the call, and you're listening in, you can ask AI companion during that call to give you the live summary, to give you, hey, what has been said so far? What are the tasks we've done so far? Can you reiterate what we've just talked about? So that you can effectively summarize at the end. How nice would it be to get AI to give you all the necessary tasks, so that when you close out the call, you don't have to remember everything that's talked about on that 30-minute call or whatever. You can just simply reiterate that, close that out as a summary, and have very well-defined next steps to work on as you go forward. So that's a live call summary. You can also do that after a phone call. So obviously not only during and not during, but after. You can ask AI companion for any insights on after phone calls, or even after, in this case, multiple phone calls. So if you had multiple missed calls, or if you've gone call by call by call by call as you're moving from place to place, you can ask AI companion to summarize all your calls for the day. And so after all the calls are done, give me all my tasks at the end of the day, and let me go in and follow up on each one of those. And this goes for everything from voicemails to missed calls to actual live calls, all across the board. When talking about voicemail, this is back to the theme of making something old new again. I don't know about y'all, but I've got 1,000 voicemails that I've never even listened to on my phone. I still pretty much refuse to listen to them, and sometimes I'll barely even look at the transcript. But AI now allows voicemail to become useful again. And what I mean by that is AI can go into the voicemail and prioritize voicemails that I actually need to listen to. So instead of having all of those voicemails that I just don't listen to, but also I don't think I'm going to get any information, I'll just call the person back. But AI can turn around and say, here's your top priority voicemails. And guess what? Here are your tasks associated with those top priority voicemails. And here's the things that you actually need to follow up on. So as opposed to listening to them all and figuring out all of those tasks myself, I can simply have AI summarize all of those voicemails for me, give me the tasks out of those, and again, make that super useful. So to leverage voicemail again. Message auto translation. This is something that's pretty interesting on web chats and on our contact center side. So when you're talking about AI and the capabilities of a phone system, one of the areas that we're moving rapidly into is this multilingual capacity and capability across the world. And so now within the contact center and within phone, we can do message auto translation for the chats, for the web chats, for the SMSs, for all of the the textual based conversations, and even some of the transcriptions. We can do auto translation to your preferred language. So that's both bidirectionally. If you're typing a web chat message through contact center to a customer, it will auto translate that into the customer's language. And then when they respond, it will auto translate that back. So AI can do that for you now on the contact center side. Back to the making what is old new again. So we wouldn't be complete in that story if we didn't have online fax. And so one of the oldest technologies that just won't go away is fax. And there's a lot of real good reasons why that's not going away, and a lot of it has to do with compliance, with healthcare, with government, and the ability to securely send documents in different ways. And so fax is still one of the most secure, arguably one of the most secure ways to transmit a certain document. So we've got fax now built into the phone platform, and you can offer that to your customers as part of Zoom Phone. That is, that's really there mostly for convenience. Now that you've got, you've got AI capabilities across the entire platform. Now you've got fax built into there as well, so that you don't have to go to another third party. You don't have to go somewhere else to have a complete, voice solution. Back to making what it's old new again, Avaya Aura integration. So we have now integrated with Avaya Aura, and we can be the soft phone to any Aura implementation. So that means leveraging the Zoom client, leveraging the soft phone for Zoom to register as a SIP endpoint to an Avaya Aura system, and allow them to use all the capabilities of the Zoom client and the Zoom ecosystem, but leveraging their on-prem PBX. Back to some of the necessities. You've got a lot of hospitals out there that are leveraging Avaya, and a lot of government organizations that are still leveraging Avaya, and for good reason. It's a very, very solid, very tried and true platform that is very difficult in those organizations to move, because they're tied into so many critical systems like Code Blue and emergency notifications and stuff like that. So leveraging the ability of the Zoom client to layer on top of that and be the soft phone for the Avaya Aura is how we're making that old on-prem solution new again. Making something that's it's okay, good. I guess that's a different tact is Zoom Phone for Microsoft Teams. Now we have an integration with Microsoft Teams where we like to joke around that we can do Microsoft Teams Phone better than Microsoft does Teams Phone. So the integration into the Teams client, into the Teams interface, gives you the flexibility of having a fully integrated experience right there in the Teams window, dial pad within the Teams window, voicemail, history, transcription, AI features, all right there within the Teams window. Or you can also have a Zoom Phone Assistant, which allows you a little pop-up on the side if you wanted to multitask and still be on the call without having the massive Teams window up in your face the entire time. So that gives you some flexibility. There is no there's no pop-ups, there's no cross launches. Everything's embedded directly into that Teams environment. We've also done bidirectional presence integration with Teams, so you can see who's on the phone. If you've got Zoom Phone common area devices, or if you've got hard phones deployed directly on Zoom Phone, but then you've got a Teams environment leveraging the Teams phone integration, you can see who is on the phone, who's not on the phone by bidirectional presence and so forth. We've also implemented that for our customer experience. So we have a customer experience embedded application for Microsoft Teams also. So a Teams user can leverage our contact center and be a contact center agent and still use Microsoft Teams as the overall interface for making and taking those calls. Along the lines of call queues and contact centers on phone, we've implemented what we call call queue callback. So this has traditionally been a full-blown contact center feature. You usually have to roll out a large or an expensive contact center solution in order to get callback. But we've implemented that on our call queues within Zoom Phone. So this allows small offices, small businesses to essentially stand up a quick IVR right there within Zoom Phone. We call it auto receptionist, and then give those callers or those customers the ability to do callback. So if there's a lot of people that are piling up on that IVR or that auto receptionist, then can give the customer the option to call back, to get callback. Along those same lines for call queues, with the simple call queues within Zoom Phone, you've got a member availability report, so you can see all of the call queue members and who's available and who's not available. So you even get some ability to manage, staffing and manage who's who's on and who's off on a workforce management type of capability right there in Zoom Phone. So while it's not full-blown workforce management, it is still an availability report, so you can see who's on, who's off as far as your call queue members. Taking that one step further, on the contact center side, we do have a workforce management solution. We have our own native workforce management solution that does do AI scheduling. So you can take that to the nth degree and allow AI to essentially manage your workforce management, manage all the agent schedules, and come up with the best and most optimal schedules based on some historical, call volume information that you've gotten out of the system over time. So AI schedules makes it a lot easier to manage staff when staffing a larger contact center. Back to the contact center side again. So the AI intent routing, this is where I mentioned micro contact center is showing up within a lot of organizations, is the ability to do, not necessarily have to have an IVR anymore, but have an AI agent answering the phone and doing intent routing as opposed to a call tree. So instead of a call tree, just have AI talk to the customer and route the call as necessary to the right department. And so this could be done with contact center alone, or can be forwarded over to just an individual on Zoom Phone as well. So this is where that micro contact center capability can come into play when creating some of those service offerings. One of the nicest and one of the most compelling capabilities in contact center overall is the ability to do video. So as you all know, one of our strong suits all the way through the pandemic to now has been Zoom meetings and Zoom video. What has been missing in a lot of contact centers is the ability to queue up and video meetings. So if you think about a use case around, say, a hospital or a healthcare provider, and doing something like telemedicine, instead of sending out and scheduling individual Zoom meetings or individual virtual meetings to every single one of their customers, that provider can simply become a member of a video call queue, and those patients then route into that patient room, if you will, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So the provider never has to leave their desk. They never have to leave their Zoom meeting. They simply get sent in different patients one after the other. Very similar, if you look in the real world, to what you do in a doctor's office. You go into the doctor's office and one patient comes in after the other, after the other, after the other. So that is a virtual way of doing something very, very similar that really doesn't exist anywhere else. And we're obviously the best ones to be able to do that because everybody knows how to use Zoom. And we've been using it for Zoom meetings for quite some time. Moving on, so I'll close this out with just kind of some details around how we incorporate this into the rest of the platform. So all the call details, all the things that we mentioned before, will be available in our team chat side of the interface. So in your contact with an individual, if you're chatting with that individual, then all of your phone call information, all of the AI summaries, all the meeting summaries that you've had with that individual will show up in that entire thread. So you've got all of the communications, not just chat and text, but you've got voice calls, voicemails, summaries, tasks, everything that have been interacted with that individual showing up right there in chat, so it's easy to find. And then one of my favorite things is the recorder with AI Companion. So right now there's a record button that can be turned on your Zoom client on your mobile device. For all of you that are doing a lot of in-person meetings or in-person consultations, and you would like to have AI be able to summarize and pull tasks and recommendations out of a live meeting. Now you can do that with your mobile device, and you can do that with the Zoom app with the record button. So you hit the record button, put your phone on the desk, and you can actually start seeing the transcript show up on the screen. And then AI will start to summarize and pull out those tasks of a live meeting. And then you decide, doesn't go anywhere else. You simply decide what you do with that information after that meeting is done. So very similar to being able to do that in a virtual meeting. Now you can do that on a live meeting. It's one of the most useful capabilities for those of you that have a lot of in-person meetings with customers and clients. And then last but not least, I mentioned this a little bit previously on the service creation side, but Zoom Mail and Zoom Calendar integration. So we can integrate with all the major calendar and mail platforms, Office 365, Google, regular IMAP, SMTP, whomever. And then we also have our own, on Zoom Mail and Zoom Calendar, if a customer wants to, just not have to buy 365 or not to go all in with with an email platform or a calendaring platform as a separate product. So a AI solution wouldn't be complete if it wasn't able to then provide, collated or holistic summaries and information out of both email and calendar as well. So this allows AI Companion to actually manage calendars and to merge chat information with meeting and phone information with emails as well, because now it has access to see and summarize all of the different means of communication within the individual. So that's that's what I wanted to close with, is just to close it all in and show how the platform it really encompasses everything from UCaaS to CCaaS that a customer may need to do, from a real-time perspective to a static perspective, all the way down to mail and calendar. So at this point, I'd love to open it up to Q&A. I see a number of Q&A and chats that have come in, but I'd love to open it up to Joe. Do you have any questions or any Q&A that's come in that you'd like to?
Sure. Yeah, definitely I have. First of all, really nice. I mean, I can see Zoom is really, offering a full stack of communication services. Just amazing. And I like the concept of old versus new, because that's really what you're doing. But I want to challenge you on one thing. You talked about the status quo, and that the current status quo, is highly profitable versus growth. I'm not so sure that the current status quo is highly profitable anymore. It's become a bit of a commodity. Everybody's offering it at kind of low prices. But with all these additional features, I think you're all of a sudden putting value back into the communication system.
That's a really great perspective, and yeah, you're absolutely right, because that's the balancing act. Is you've got phone only and voicemail only. And those customers, are they going to stick with that or go somewhere else? And are they going to go somewhere else within your own ecosystem, or do they go to a competitor?
Yep, exactly.
Great
And the other thing, I used to be in the leasing business, and you talked a little bit about capital expense, versus operational expenses. One of the things we sold as a leasing company was the ability, and for you folks who are not familiar with those terms, when you capitalize something, you have to put it on your balance sheet. When you expense it, it becomes a business expense that you can write off. Really, that's a very valuable point to make, when you're selling these type of solutions. Move from a capital expense to an operating expense.
That's a great point as well. You're absolutely right. It becomes it's a cost of goods at that point, and it doesn't show up as a capital expense on the balance sheet. That's right.
Yep. What does it take to become Zoom Phone certified?
So great question. I'm glad you asked. So we have an alias out there that is sp@zoom.com. So you can send an email to sp@zoom.com, and we will get in touch with you on what it takes to become a service provider in our service provider program. Ultimately, it begins with a conversation with me and my team, and being able to put together the steps to success. Step one, obviously would be start looking at cloud peering, tying us together, look at what your current solutions are, where the service offering would look like if you were to go down this path, and then to map out all those steps to success to becoming a Zoom partner. So the requirements ultimately get you to a certain partner level. And those are what we can share with you as well, is, how to move through that, become an enrolled reseller, and then become a service provider reseller, to enable you with all these capabilities. So it's a fairly simple process. I mean, you could start with enrolled, and then that allows us to partner and start to work together as you meet the criteria to become full service provider.
And when we're talking about contact, how do we reach you?
You can always
or your
reach
team?
me. Jamie.hill@zoom.us is my direct email. So feel free to reach out to me. And I'll be at every one of the CCA events. So you can always grab me at the CCA events, and whether it's after stage, or in the booth and walking around, mixing and mingling with everyone. So look forward to having some of these conversations in DC, and then again, hopefully in the beginning of the year when the next CCA event happens. So
Yep, that's Cloud Connections. You talked about your pricing model, and I think you used the word eloquent. I don't know if it's eloquent, but I can tell you it's fair. And I applaud Zoom for that. I mean, one of the biggest complaints I hear from service providers is about paying for unused licenses, using the old model, if you will. So could you maybe you want to repeat that a little bit, because I think that's the coolest part of this. It's a very fair program.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is quite fair, because you're not actually, the service provider is not paying for anything until they have a paying customer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a pass-through cost of goods at that point. So there's not the risk associated with buying a lot of things up front. And also there is the program that we put into place when you mentioned fair. It is not a penalty-based program. It's actually an incentive-based program. So we've got rebates tied to the volume commitment. And if you hit certain tiers of that volume commitment, you get a rebate back. And then there is no penalty at the end. It's an opportunity cost. If you don't hit those commitments, then you're missing out on the rebate. You're missing out on the additional margin that you would get out of a rebate. And so that way there's no penalties associated with the end of the term on that commitment. So it is extremely fair and extremely easy to implement, and extremely easy to get going.
Yeah. And you talked about, service creation, kind of, I guess I'd call it kind of like a white label, where you can take the Zoom solution and bundle it in with your own solution. I'm going to flip that on you a little bit. What if I want to use the Zoom name? I want to use the Zoom logo. I kind of think that attracts a lot of people. So
yeah, it does. And that's an interesting point, because when I do talk to a lot of SPs out there, the first conversation that comes up is, do you do white label? And we actually don't do white label.
Oh,
so
okay.
This is not a white labeled solution. We can do some colorize, we can do some customization of the client, but it's still the Zoom client ultimately. And when I present that, I actually hear the exact same feedback, Joe, that you just mentioned, is that we would like to use the Zoom name. We would like to go to market together, because everybody kind of knows the Zoom name and trusts the Zoom name. And that's something that they want to take advantage of alongside us. So, we want to use your expertise in the PSTN and the DID and the telephony market, and the reach that all of you have as a service provider. And then in exchange, you get to use the Zoom name as far as putting together a service offering that is really compelling within the market.
Great. Are you looking for people in any specific geographic regions? I think you mentioned 80 providers currently worldwide.
We have 80 providers that are cloud peered with us. Not all of those at this point are full-blown service providers. We only have a handful at this point that have met all of the requirements to become fully service providers within the program. So there really isn't any geographical area that we're not looking in. We are looking at ultimately prioritizing all of the countries in the geographic areas where we're not in. We have native service in about 50 different countries, but there's a lot of countries out there that we're not in. So if you're in any of those, and also the other thing that provides you is that also provides you the ability to resell some of our native solutions also. So if you have a customer that has remote sites in countries that you don't cover, we may be able to fill that gap for you and still have one back to pat essentially to provide a holistic phone solution in multiple countries between the two of us. So
Okay.
I would say the answer is there are no specific geographical areas that we're not targeting. But a lot of the work right now has been focused in some of the the Asia markets and the Europe markets that we haven't been very prevalent in the past.
There actually is a question also in the Q&A. You talked about good, better, best. So what kind of price points, can you talk about, as an example for the, bundles that you showed?
The price points are all, they're basically fixed price points, but that's something that we would talk about as an individual conversation between us and your teams, and part of that service creation conversation. So while they're not broadly published, they are something that are fixed. They're not something we negotiate on the price. We've got the prices, we've heard is a very compelling level, and especially with the rebate on top. And that's the conversation that we'll have as part of our discussion on how to go to market together.
Okay. And another question that was popped up, I think I heard it, but maybe you need to repeat it. Can this support a hybrid scenario with legacy systems such as ShoreTel and Metaswitch?
Yes, absolutely. One of the nice things about Zoom Phone is that the way we're implementing this is through what we're calling BYOC, and is essentially the ability to connect a SIP trunk from another system into Zoom Phone, and then inject those DIDs to assign those to users. The same can be done not on the cloud side, cloud peering side, but on the premise peering side. So it is possible to do a SIP trunk to an existing solution, a SIP trunk to a premise-based solution. We can do what we call, what we also refer to as bring your own PBX. We can do a SIP trunk locally through an SBC to an on-prem PBX and do a slow migration from one solution to the other, and tie those together. So there's almost an infinite number of design scenarios between cloud peering and premise peering that can be done along for each individual customer scenario.
Another Q&A. Can MSPs build to two-tier partners in an aggregated approach?
That's something that we have to dig into on some of the individual conversations, but the short answer to that is yes. We do have the ability to do a two-tier scenario where we onboard you as a partner, and then you sell to your resellers, and then those resellers sell to your customers. We do have a distribution environment where you can ultimately, if you're already onboarded with one of the major distributors throughout the world, you can simply buy through them without having to sign up individually as a reseller, as a direct reseller. So we've got a number of different routes to market that we can discuss, and hopefully meet you where you want to do business and be able to accelerate that for you.
I'll tell you, some of the features, of Zoom Phone, I just found, a really, really, really amazing, that would make me more efficient. A video call queue, I thought was a cool one. But I found the most interesting one, I guess, being the auto translate in a live meeting. It's almost like, it's not a phone solution anymore. It's a real world solution. Repeat that one more time. I picture myself walking into a meeting in Japan, throwing my phone on the desk and being able to communicate.
Yeah, right now, it's not it's still textual based translation. So it's AI listening in and doing the textual based translation. So it's still caption. If you're in a meeting, for example, your translation will show up as a caption. Everyone around the world is still going, working towards the live audible translation capability. And that's taking it a level, a step above on the process and the local processing capabilities. If you're in a Zoom meeting and you need to do some local processing in order for that to happen, Otherwise, in the old phone system environment, we always said that 150 milliseconds is, the window of delay to keep your conversation in. So in order to make that truly useful, we've got to have a auto translated, audible voice done in under 150 milliseconds, which that's a lot of compute in order to do that. Now, one of the things that, when you look at doing meetings, there's a capability that's often overlooked as a part of our meetings platform called clips. And you probably saw this in some of the press releases over the last couple of months, but there is the ability to do an AI avatar of yourself. And that AI avatar would essentially, instead of me doing a webinar, for example, I would upload the script of what I said into the webinar, and then an AI version of myself would do that presentation for me. As a part of that, I could simply state which language I wanted to do that presentation in. So I could simultaneously do a presentation in both in English and Japanese, in Spanish and German and French all at the same time, by recording a clip and then posting that clip with all those different variants of languages. So really, really ups the productivity when you're doing pre-recorded messaging or pre-recorded meetings, to be able to do that, not only just text to speech in an AI avatar perspective. I mean, if you're like me and I'm doing a video and I'm doing a video clip, I'll probably record that thing 10 times before I'm happy with the version that I get. So instead, where that takes a lot of time out is you can write that entire transcript. You don't need a teleprompter. You don't need anything flashing up in front of you to read off of or remind you. And the AI avatar will essentially speak that in natural language. So that is where we are today. Live transcription is on a textual closed caption base within the meetings. And then I think the whole industry is rapidly moving to, when the compute gets there, we'll be able to do, less than 150 millisecond live translation. And that is, it's going to be exciting to see when it comes.
Well, I like the Jamie Hill, the real one, live and in person. So that's my preference. Just one last question: IVR. How hard is it for the? I talked about like a doctor's office. I called my doctor's office a few days ago. They had me on hold, and and it's all the usual questions. What do you want? And then I had to be transferred 10 times. And I mean, can a doctor implement IVR?
Potentially. It depends on, there's several doctors that I've worked with. My brother-in-law actually is a doctor, and he implements all of his own websites and all of his own collateral. So depends on, I guess, how technical that individual wants to be. But the ease of use really is, if you're looking at the contact center side, it's a drag and drop flow chart that you're creating to do IVR. If you're looking at it on the phone side, it's a little bit more of a menu base, but it's still, you've got all of your individual options, and then you simply click the option and you put where that's going to go and how that's going to be routed. So it is very graphical, it's very visual, and how you create those IVRs, whether it's a call queue on the phone side or it's a full blown, multi or omni-channel IVR on the contact center side.
Great. Jamie, thank you. One more time. How do we reach you, just in case they didn't write it down?
So 2 ways to reach the entire team: SP, service provider, at zoom.com as the email alias. Or if you want to reach me directly, jamie.hill, JAMIE.hill, HILL, at zoom.us.
Great. Well, thanks, Jamie. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sending us the real Jamie today. I still prefer that over the advertising. Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you at the Cloud Financial Summit in Washington, D.C., October 7th and 8th. You can find that on the CCA website. And thank you all very much. Everybody have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.